Buckle in, sports fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show. The program will be starting in just a couple of minutes, so grab your popcorn and get ready to enjoy the show. While you're waiting, make sure you're following us on social media at WHBC Stream and staying tuned to WHBCStream.com. We're so glad to have you today on the program, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line on Twitter or call the show 352-639-0036. And thanks again for tuning in.
HBC. Well, it is a good evening to you and Tayaby. William Haynes here, you there, here on this Thursday night at 10:14 here on the William Haynes Show. Of course, you're listening to the William Haynes Show live on WHBC Stream, and we are live, of course, as always, from the WHBC studio in Tallahassee, Florida. Lots to discuss. One of probably the biggest shows that we've had in quite some time. Not just a Rays loss to discuss, which is unfortunate, but we have some college football, some NFL on the monitor. The Kansas City Chiefs, as we speak, on the opening night of NFL. The Chiefs are up 24-7 midway through the third quarter over the Texans. Then we have a little bit of college football action, some ACC action as well. The Miami Hurricanes taking on the University of Alabama Birmingham Dragons. So we'll keep our eyes on that, as well as some NBA and NHL playoff action. I believe the Lakers won their game today to go up 3-1 over the Rockets. So it looks like the Lakers have their control of that series and should probably be headed off to the Western Conference Finals here within the next couple of games. And then also, I believe in the third period of NHL action, it is now the Dallas Stars up 2-1 over the Vegas Golden Knights. If I'm not mistaken, that series is tied 1 game apiece. So the Dallas Stars could get out in front of Vegas a little bit, Vegas being the 1 seed, so who knows. The Stars have been really hot during this playoff. So, of course, as we pretty much do every show when the Rays play, we'll lead it with kind of just a Rays post-game show. I know if you're most of the people that are listening to this live are probably listening to it for that reason, and if you are listening live and you want to call and maybe get your thoughts on the air, you have some Rays thoughts or any other sports thoughts that you want to talk about, we have a line open. And we'd love to hear from you at 877-566-1020 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter if you want to tweet us your thoughts on there as well. So once we wrap up with the Rays kind of post-game show, we'll preview their game tomorrow against the Red Sox. And then also, you know, obviously we'll have all kinds of sports that are going on right now that are live. And then after that, we'll talk about Saturday's FSU Georgia Tech game a little bit. We don't have a whole lot of audience that maybe is interested in that, but I'll cover that. And also, of course, the Tampa Bay sports kind of show. We will obviously preview Sunday's contest between the Buccaneers and Saints during week 1, and the rest of NFL action. I'll give you my picks against the spread. So obviously a lot of stuff to cover. And again, if you want to call us, we have a line open once again, 877-566-1020. We'll take a break in about 4 minutes or so and we'll give you the baseball scores first when we take that break. But It was the Rays losing to the Red Sox today by a score of 4-3. The lowly Red Sox, really, that are trying to lose. They're trying to tank to get the number one pick. That star prospect, the pitching prospect out of Vanderbilt, I think, is who they have their eyes on. But they win today and advance to 16-29. They're still dead last in the AL East. Meanwhile, the Rays dropped their third straight. They are now at 28-16. We look at the AL East standings as they sit now. The Yankees and Orioles game was postponed today because of weather. So as it stands right now, the Rays have a 3.5 game lead over the Blue Jays and a 5.5 game lead over the Yankees. So we'll see if that holds. But again, I believe the Rays losing 3 straight for the first time since early August when they had that 0-5 road trip. And I believe they lost the first 2 in Atlanta, and then they went off to Baltimore and lost all 3 of those games. And that was really, I think, the low point of the season. But if the Rays keep heading in this direction, who knows? I think if you want to talk takeaways right off the bat, I think the top of the lineup looked pretty good, all things considered. I think the move to have Margot lead off the righty against the left-handed starter and kick him, I think, was a good move. I tweeted at WHBC Stream when the lineup came out that I really liked the lineup. I thought, having all the righties at the top against a lefty starter with Margot, Arozarena, Meadows, and Bros. So I thought that would really pack a punch. I think Meadows is slowly starting to turn around. He went 1 for 3 and had a couple of walks. He also knocked in a run. That was on a ground rule double, and I believe that tied the game. So it looks like Meadows may be starting to turn around. Lau had a hit. He went 1 for 3 and also walked. But he did strike out, and he batted 6th today, which I really liked. I think it was kind of just overcommitment to have him bat 2 or 3 in the order every day when he's giving you the production that he is. I mean, he was a guy that was consistently, 0 for 5 with 3 or 4 strikeouts, and that was every night. I mean, let's not forget, he had an 0 for 22 stretch. I mean, he's been ice cold after that really hot kind of part of August. So he's cooling off, and you have to get him back as well as Meadows, and that's something that I've kind of harped on a lot over the last a couple of days, especially those 2 losses in Nationals Park against the Nats. Was the Rays are in the driver's seat, not just in the AL East, but really for the entire playoffs. I think they still have the best record in the American League. They'd be the 1 seed. What value that has, we don't know. It may turn out to be that there is no home field advantage if all the games are played in a couple of neutral sites. Maybe the NL is in Dodger Stadium and AL is in Rangers Park. Stuff like that has been discussed. Maybe the first round will be in the home seed ballpark, but that's only a 3-game series. So how much value winning games right now, I don't really know. I think the ESPN model still has the Rays playoff chances at 100%. I mean, it's not even 99.9. It is 100%. They would probably just have to lose the rest of the games over the next 20 days or so. And then, a lot of other teams would have to win every day. And that's just not going to happen. The Rays are a playoff team this year, but I think if they can't get this turned around and if they can't kind of beat off this slump, that playoff appearance is going to be very short. I mean, you're talking that 3-game series, anything can happen. And the way it's seeded right now, with the Rays being the 1 seed, currently it's the Yankees as the 8 seed. And James Paxton had a setback today. Their starting pitcher, Aaron Judge, has had a couple of setbacks. Giancarlo Stanton, though, is working back, and they have Gleyber Torres back as well. I mean, they're players. There's a reason why going into this season we thought the New York Yankees were the best team in the American League, and really, let's be honest, probably they had the best roster, the best team in baseball, and it just hasn't turned out that way, mainly because of injuries, but they've also looked cold. But as I said, in a 3-game series, all the records go out the window, everything. I would even throw out this season record. I believe the Rays were 8-2 against the Yankees in the regular season. That gets thrown out the window because you have Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and all they have to do is mash for a game or two, just hit some home runs off of a bullpen right now for the Rays. That is not quite what we expected it to be. The Rays are doing well with the pieces they have, but I mean, Fairbanks, he took the loss tonight. He kind of gave the game away. They put him up in a big spot, I believe, in the 7th inning in a tie game, and he just couldn't get the 3 outs, and that really bit him in the behind. I think, I mean, if the Rays come back, it doesn't really matter, but obviously Fairbanks gets the loss, and that's kind of what we look to Oliver Drake should be coming back shortly, but those things are never guaranteed. It wasn't necessarily an injury for him. It was more so just flat out he wasn't ready to start this season. The build up, the 3 or 4 weeks in summer camp wasn't enough to get him where he wanted to be. Guys like Alvarado from the left-handed side, the Rays are extremely limited from the left-handed side of their bullpen. Alvarado, the Rays have kind of been more on him as far as when he's going to come back, and maybe even if he does, as we saw last year, he may just not perform up to the level they need him to. You have Nick Anderson, you have Diego Castillo right now. I think Fairbanks is still part of that A bullpen. That one night isn't going to change anything. He still has a 4-2 record and a 2.75 ERA. Obviously, he's probably, there's a reason why he was coming up in the 7th inning in a tie game, is he's one of your high leverage relievers right now. Ryan Thompson is great. He pitched an inning and a third. One thing, and I'll mention this probably a couple of times on the broadcast tonight, he has now inherited 10 base runners over the course of the season, and he has allowed 0 of them to come across to score. Now, I looked at it as courtesy. I'll give it to NBC Sports, their whatever kind of stat page they have. There's only a couple other pitchers, I think 2 or 3, maybe even 4 relievers that have inherited that kind of amount of base runners and have allowed none of them to score. You talk about clutch. Ryan Thompson cleaned up a mess from Josh Fleming tonight. He certainly did not have his best stuff. Thompson comes on, I think, with 2 base runners and only 1 man out, and he gets the 2 outs cleanly and gets the Rays out of the inning. And if the Rays go on to win, I think that's really what you give praise to, is Ryan Thompson. So there was good things that happened tonight, also a little bad. The bad, I would say, pretty much just from the lineup, a lot of guys going 0 for, a lot of pinch hit appearances early. I think Cash got pretty aggressive in the 5th, pinch hitting for Arozarena in the top of the order, and Brasso as well. Part of that is, because they were shifting over, you stack the righties because left-handed starter, but he only went, he only went 4 innings. So once they shifted to kind of the right-handed side of the pen, you pinch it to get some of those lefty bats. It was Sasugo and Choi getting those, and that's kind of what you expect. But, the Rays, they pinch hit more than any team in the American League. Didn't work out tonight, but I think it was good for Cash to try and be aggressive. This team needs a spark. I think that was what Cash was going for when he does this with the lineup. When you put Margot at the top, a guy that can get a bunt single, he can steal a base, as he did tonight in the 9th inning. He got on base, and then he steals second, and then on a wild pitch he gets to third. In a 4-3 game, that's not Margot's problem that you can't bring him home. He put you in a really good spot, and of course it was Austin Meadows, I believe, striking out for the final out, if I'm not mistaken. So that was just really bad to see. He goes 1 for 3 and 2 walks, so you think maybe he's trending a little bit in the right direction, but still not exactly where you want him to be. I think, still batting him third. I don't think you have a choice. I don't think you have anyone that can give you those kind of quality at-bats, but Austin Meadows is not, to be fair, he's not giving you as many of those quality at-bats as maybe he used to. So at 10:24, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will officially break down tonight's loss, go inning by inning, tell you everything that happened, cover the box score, the scorecard, whatever you need to know about tonight's Rays loss, we will cover in ad nauseum. Now, if you want to call us and vent about the Rays, I'm certainly willing to take that call. I understand we probably have some listeners that are pretty frustrated, and I'm right there with you. So we have a line open, and if you'd like to call, the number to call is 877-566-1020. We'll take a quick break, give you some scores, and then we will be right back. HBC. Some MLB action already final. It was the Orioles and Yankees Game 1 being postponed for rain. They'll play a doubleheader tomorrow. Obviously, the Red Sox 4-3 over the Rays. Some more final scores. The Marlins edging out the Phillies 7-6 as they are now 1 game above 500. Also final, the Royals 11-1 over the Indians. The Royal starter Singer took a no-hitter into the 8th inning. It was the Braves 7-6 over the Nationals. In Game 2 of a doubleheader, it was the Tigers 6-3 over the Cardinals. The Cardinals took Game 1 by a score of 12-2. It was the Angels 6-2 over the Rangers. The Athletics 3, Astros 1. And now a couple of games currently in action. It is the Reds 3-0 over the Cubs in the 4th. Padres 4, Giants 1. And in the second, scoreless game between the Dodgers and Diamondbacks. Again, number to call during the break, 877-566-1020.
Hey, sports fans. William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, You can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for Williams' world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCstream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 636. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 10:28, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Just a couple of score updates. Now, just the Miami Hurricanes just now getting in the end zone on a rushing touchdown. They'll be up 24-14 over the UAB Blazers, I believe, or the Dragons, whatever they're called. So it'll be Miami with a 10-point lead late in the third quarter. So it looks like maybe they're in the driver's seat there. De'Aaron King's first game as a Hurricane after transferring from Houston. Also NFL action on the first game of the NFL season late in the third quarter. It is the Kansas City Chiefs up 24-7 over the Texans. Now the Texans do have the ball, but it is at their own 5-yard line. So Deshaun Watson and company is going to have to get something jump-started against a Kansas City Chiefs defense that has looked relatively good here on opening night. And also, with 4 minutes left to go in the third period, it is the Vegas Golden Knights and Dallas Stars tied at 2 goals apiece. So I'm actually going to have to get that game up on the monitor because that's actually a pretty crucial spot and a pretty crucial game in that series. With the Lightning are looking right now, they're up 2-0 over the New York Islanders. It looks like if they continue to do what they are doing, they'll be playing either the Vegas Golden Knights or the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup final, and I know that is exactly what every Lightning fan would love to see. Whether it's that would be a weird series certainly to face the Stars and Ben Bishop at goal. If it is Ben Bishop, I know they've kind of flip-flopped on the goalies, or even potentially a Vegas Golden Knights team that, in all honesty, should have been taken up against the Lightning instead of the Capitals in 2018. Who knows how that series would have gone. Of course, the Lightning were up 3-2 in that Eastern Conference final against the Caps, and they don't score a game in Game 6 or 7, including a Game 7 in Amalie. So that's neither here nor there. So now officially we're going to talk everything, inning by inning, break down the box score, everything from tonight's Rays 4-3 loss against the Boston Red Sox. The number to call, I'll give it to you one more time before I get started here, is 877 566-1020 at WHBC Stream is a Twitter. You can reach us on there. So it was a Josh Fleming start for the Rays. When we had previewed this, it looked like it was going to be Zach Godley going for the Red Sox, and that probably would have helped out the Rays a little bit if that was the case, because they really beat him up the last time, I think putting up 8 earned runs on him. But he goes on the IL, and they bring up Kickham, who I wasn't familiar with, but they mentioned on the broadcast was on the San Francisco Giants during that 2013-2014 period, so at least a World Series ring, potentially 2. I'm not sure if they went back-to-back on those years or not. So we had, some high leverage experience. They were saying that he was going to go 55 pitches or so. He ends up going 65 and gets 4 innings of 2-run ball. So in a bullpen day, I think he gave them more than the Red Sox expected, and it was Ryan Weber, the St. Pete native, that got the win. And 2 1/3 inning, the lefty was really fooling the Rays hitter. So that was not great in that department. The way the Rays lined up defensively, there's a lot of pinch hits in here, so I'll do the best I can. In the outfield from left to right, it was Austin Meadows in left. Manny Margot started in center. In right field, it was Hunter Renfroe. Now in the infield from left to right at third base, it was, at third base, it was, I don't know why they make it so hard to see who the third baseman. It was Joey Wendell at shortstop. It was Willie Adames at second base. It was, let's see, who was it? I don't know why. Brandon Lau. And at first base, it was Mike Brasso. Michael Perez did the catching, and obviously it was Josh Fleming, the starter. Now, Josh Fleming in 3 career starts had 3 wins. He went exactly, I think, he went 5 innings twice and 5 1/3 the other time. So, more than I think the Rays could have ever asked for. Rookie, he's mainly played Double-A ball, and he played a little bit. I think he had 5 starts at the Triple-A level a season ago. So I think, you have to be happy, I think, still with where the Rays are at with Josh Fleming. He's kind of cemented himself as maybe the 4th or 5th starter if, the Rays had the luxury of kind of lining it up right now in the rotation. Tonight he goes 4 1/3, giving up 3 earned runs on 6 hits, so not the worst. He walks 2, which I don't think he's walked a man in his last couple of starts, so that wasn't great to see. 5 strikeouts and gave up 2 home runs, and that was really the doozy. 75 pitches, 47 for strikes. A 4.12 ERA now. He did face 20 batters and threw a first pitch strike to 11 of them. I think for a guy that, tops out at about 91, 92 and does not have a good off-speed pitch, I think you need to be a lot better than that. Josh Fleming's, I think, calling card is that control on the fastball, and it wasn't exactly there tonight. I mean, shown by there, if you only throw a first pitch strike to half the batters you face, the control is not great. The changeup was kind of hanging. I think at least one of the home runs was on there. The Red Sox have a kid right now that is hitting the crap out of the baseball. Dalbec, I think is how you pronounce it. He played first base. Bobby Dalbec. The stat on him, actually, he's hit 6 home runs in 10 games, including 5 straight with a home run, and I believe that's his first 10 games or something like that. So he's making history right now, and he hit a home run off of Josh Fleming. So. And that Josh Fleming, I think that was his 5th or 6th home run he's allowed. So he's been susceptible to the long ball. If you want to talk positives, something that I noticed. I'll start with this first. The radio broadcast mentioned that he was topping out at about 89 in his other starts, and he was touching I think 91 and 92 a couple of times in the fastball. So obviously not a flamethrower, but it looks like maybe he's at his best shape right now as far as the arm. I'm not sure if he wasn't doing that full routine in Port Charlotte. Maybe now he's fully built up to maybe facing major league hitters. We'll see. Obviously the stats tonight didn't necessarily say that it was trending in that direction. And the thing that I noticed is, and I think he's really been doing this in all of his starts, but Josh Fleming, I mean, he just throws with conviction. The control necessarily wasn't there, but it certainly was in the first couple of innings when he was putting him down pretty easily. I mean, when you only throw 91 and you're not afraid to put it right down the pipe and challenge these hitters, sometimes you're going to get burned, and he did tonight. But ultimately, I respect just kind of his outlook on the mound. I mean, he knows he's not a flamethrower, but he's not afraid, again, to just give you a fastball at 92, on the corner, because he can put it pretty much wherever he wants when he's on his game. And he started off well and then kind of tapered off towards the end. But obviously, it's not an easy Red Sox lineup. The 16-29 record, don't let that fool you. They have a lot of good players. Their record is just so bad because of the pitching, and I think that's also a point of frustration that you can only scratch out 3 runs against this pitching staff. I mean, they throw some of their best guys at you. Weber, Brazier, and Barnes are some of their best right now. I mean, they traded away their closer Workman, and I believe one of their other top guys to the Phillies, and I think maybe they shipped another guy out to somewhere else as well. So it's a depleted bullpen as well from a pen that wasn't good to begin with. So obviously the Rays needed to get more than 3 runs tonight, and they can't do that. I think holding this lineup to 4 runs is probably a good sign, and I like kind of how they stand for the rest of the series. I mean, the bullpen did have to cover a pretty good amount of innings, but obviously as they do it, they all just pretty much pitch 1 inning apiece. Ryan Sheriff just got an out, so obviously he'll be available. And I mean, you look at the pen, and we'll cover it kind of when we go by. It was Peter Fairbanks was the only guy that gave up a run. It was Ryan Thompson giving you an inning and a third scoreless. Obviously, Sheriff got the out. John Curtis pitched a really good 8th inning, a scoreless inning where he punched out 13 pitches, 12 for strikes. We'll talk about him a little bit later. And then Aaron Loop in the 9th inning, and an inning clean where he got 2 strikeouts as well. So, that was good to see, I think, for sure. It was a night where you didn't have to use Castillo or Nick Anderson, so I guess maybe that's a bit of a silver lining, although I think the Rays would have preferred to use them, in the top of the 9th with the lead, but it didn't necessarily break that way. And I gave you the defensive alignment. Now, the way that the lineup was ordered, it was Margot leading off, followed by Arozarena and Meadows. Brasso cleaned up, and then it was Renfroe 5, Lau 6, and a bottom 3 of Adames, Kevin Smith, and Joy Wendell. Now, I really like Joy Wendell batting ninth to round out the order, though he does go 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. He walks once, but that's it. So not necessarily the offense that they wanted generated out of that. And you look at the other parts of the lineup, the top didn't necessarily give you what you want. Margot did good, 2 for 5. He also got on base, on second base to start the game on an error. So that was good to see, too. I mean, he was in scoring position the whole night, it seemed like, including a stolen base. He leads the team with 11 of those, so that's good to see. He actually had 2 tonight, so that was good to see, certainly. Arozarena, he only had a couple of at-bats. He goes 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Meadows, again, we said 1 for 3 with a couple of walks, but made it out in the ninth inning with a man, I think, 90 feet away. So, I think that kind of overshadows anything maybe positive that he did tonight. Brasso only got an at-bat at the cleanup spot. They pulled the plug on him pretty quick. He had a strikeout, and then it was G-Man Choi the rest of the way. Renfroe hit a home run. That was good to see. But, I mean, he's still batting just 160. That's obviously not what you want. We talked about him on the show quite a bit, actually, just that he's a guy that needs consistent at-bats. That was part of the scouting report on him when he was with the Padres. I mean, at his best, he's going to be a 220 hitter that can hit 45 home runs. Well, maybe not 45, but 35, 40 home runs. And that's obviously in a 162-game season now. But if you just bring him off the bench to pinch hit, or you only start him against lefties, that's not going to work, and he has not been able to find a rhythm. I won't take credit for this. I think it was Dave Wills on WDAE on some of the broadcast. When you have such a powerful swing like he does, it takes routine to get that tuned in. And when you're sitting on the bench more times than not, you can't just dial it up on demand. That big hack of a swing that he has, I mean, you have to be doing that at the plate 3 or 4 times a day in and day out. And the Rays are just not a team that can afford to do that. They're all about, roster flexibility. You would think the Rays would have known that when they traded for him, but I think, that was maybe more so getting rid of Tommy Pham, who's aging and got injured this year. He's got a big contract, and they also get back a guy in Xavier Edwards that I think they like, although they do ship Cronenworth, who will probably, Seth said quite emphatically, will win National League Rookie of the Year, and I can't necessarily argue with him there. I don't watch a ton of Padres games, but it looks like he can cover a lot of positions and has been clutch with the bat, which is not necessarily something you see from such a young player. But, I mean, Renfroe, that's kind of the verdict on him. With the crowded outfield, I don't know what his future with his team is. Probably he'll be shipped out at some point during the offseason. I mean, now Brent Phillips, Arozarena, I don't know what they're going to do with Kiermaier, but obviously they still have, Austin Meadows and many more go. So, I mean, it's not like they're going to keep 6 outfielders, especially if it's a reduced roster next year instead of expanded right now because of the COVID. So, he gave you a home run tonight. That's good. I think that's just kind of, I don't think he has a long-term future with the team. So you see a home run, you say, good. He's giving you some output, and you try and work with it. And, they went back-to-back to start an inning with him and Lau. So that was good to see, and that tied up the game. And then obviously Fairbanks gave it away early on. So now, without further ado, inning-by-inning breakdown. Top of the first, Fleming's fastball season high. Again, it was like 92, I think. Strikes out Verdugo and JD. It was also a Devers ground out. The only hit of the inning was a Xander Bogaerts infield single. Bottom of the first, the Rays refused the gift given to them. It was Margot leading off, and it was a play that was ultimately scored, I think, with 2 errors. I think it was a single. It was, a hard hit ball along the infield, and it was the pitcher, I believe, that threw it away basically to first base, and it got away, and it allowed Margot to get all the way to second. Now, they ruled it an error all the way ultimately, but, to start the game, nobody out, Margot standing at second base. He's probably one of the fastest base runners on the team, so you got to bring him in, really, that's the point. Then Randy Arozarena strikes out, and then Margot on that at-bat was caught stealing for third. It was, that's not Margot's fault. Obviously, that was a called play. It was a delayed steal. It was like after the ball was already in the mitt. Margot's taken off for third. It worked for them, I think, about a week ago on a different play, but it didn't work out tonight. Obviously, in the first inning, it makes sense to be aggressive. You're playing with house money at that point. I'll kind of compare it to In football, when you get a turnover, especially if you're not down by a bunch of points, you're usually taking a shot on the first play because it was a gift that was given to you. Just see what you can get out of it. And that's kind of what I would compare that to. He's caught stealing for third, so that kind of erases what that was. And then I think Randy's swung at a couple of balls, so they were mentioned on the broadcast. It could have been first and second with nobody out. And then, of course, Meadows walked, which could have maybe loaded the bases, but instead it's he's on first with 2 outs. Brasso gets hit by a pitch, and then Renfroe flies out. That was a couple of times that Renfroe ended the inning on an out. So no runs for them in the top of the first, in the bottom of the first, top of the second, 1-2-3 with a couple of strikeouts for Fleming. He got Vasquez and Munoz to fan, so that was good. Again, he got off to a pretty hot start. Bottom of the second, Kevin Smith, quote unquote, hit by pitch. On the replay, the ball didn't hit him. It was clear. It was just a slider in the dirt. Smith was laughing about it, and he goes to first. Now, I think it was the Red Sox wanted to challenge it, but they waited until the 20 seconds or so had passed that was required for them to review it. So they kind of missed out on that. Also, the Vegas Golden Knights and Dallas Stars tied at 2 after 3 periods. They're headed to overtime, so we'll keep our eyes on that, of course. Kevin, the Red Sox give you another gift, and that was to lead off the inning. And then, of course, Lau, Adames, and Wendell all strike out. So it seems like the Rays just do that so much. They get more base runners, it seems like, than anybody in the majors, and they just kind of spit on it. They don't do anything with it as they did tonight. The stats tonight, I guarantee, it's going to look like this. 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position and 9 men left on base. We see this night in and night out. It's not like, it's a dry stretch on offense where you can't get on base. You maybe have 3 base runners left on the diamond maybe the whole game. No, it's not like that. I mean, they draw a lot of walks, even with the guys with low batting averages, and then they just can't tie anything together. I don't know if maybe it was how the roster is constructed to maybe be more home run happy. That's maybe a conversation for another day. I mean, that was what they moved off of after 2017. They wanted to play more small ball, but then in the offseason they bring in guys like Renfroe and guys like that. So I don't necessarily understand that. The home runs really haven't been there when they needed to. It seems like, when one guy hits a home run, everyone will go out of the park. But when they just need a good blast, they can't get it. And again, 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position and a total of 9 men left on base. You can circle that stat pretty much any time in the box score, any time the Rays lose. And, of course, it wouldn't be anything else than that tonight. We go to the top of the third. The Red Sox strike first. Dalbec and Arroyo fly out, so getting 2 outs with no men on. And then Verdugo singled. It was against the shift. It was right where the shortstop would have been playing traditionally. Of course, you just catch a bad break there, and so you don't think much of it. It's man on first with 2 outs? No. Rafael Devers, the Rays slayer, 379 feet to right. The home run snuck it in right just underneath or behind, however you want to say it, the right field foul pole. They made it 2-0. Bogarts walks, and then JD grounds out to end things. Bottom of the third, Margot infield single. That's it. Meadows and Brasso strike out, so the guys at the top of your order, including your cleanup man, and his only at bat strikes out. So that's not exactly what you see. And also, the beginning of the fourth quarter, it is now the Kansas City Chiefs up 31-7. So it looks like the Super Bowl champs are off to a hot start once again. The defense is rolling. The offense is as good as it ever is. So watch out for KC once again. I wasn't super high on Houston coming into the year, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But top of the fourth we go. Vasquez walks, but then Jackie Bradley Jr. grounds into a double play. So Fleming is able to work through that. I mean, 4 innings, he'd only given up 2 runs. Not the end of the world. Bottom of the fourth we go. The Rays go back-to-back to tie at 2-2. Renfroe, 445 feet to center. That makes it 2-1. Just when he's hitting home runs, it really is fun to watch, like I said. He's a big guy. He's got the frame of a tight end or maybe a defensive end. I mean, he's huge. He's like 6'2", maybe 240, something like that. He's built, muscular. And when he takes a hack at that baseball, especially a fastball or something that's left over the plate or high in the zone, I mean, he mashes the crap out of it. And he hit it 445 feet to center. So you just hope that he can do more of it. He's only batting 160 right now. But you take it when you can get it. Also an on-base percentage of .234. So that he doesn't draw a lot of walks, certainly And then Brandon Lau, 419 feet right after that to center field. So both go center to make it 2-2. So then you're feeling pretty good. But then, of course, Adames, Smith, and Wendell, the 7, 8, 9 men, are retired. So that kind of took some air out of the balloon. Top of the fifth, Fleming gives up the lead. Thompson makes big pitches. Obviously, what else would it be if Thompson wasn't cleaning up some men on base? So it was Fleming to start the fifth. Dalbec leads it off 377 feet to right to make it 3-2 again. I think he had hit a, let's see the stats. He's hit a home run in 5 straight games, and he's had 6 home runs in 10 games total. So I believe that's that's up there in the record books with some of the best starts from a major league rookie, if I'm not mistaken. That's how it is. He batted 8th tonight, but obviously that's probably a bright spot of a not so good season for the Red Sox. So he hits a home run to give the Bo Sox lead once more. Arroyo, of course, it's always Dave Wills mentioned on the broadcast. It's always the ex-Rays players that come up big, especially whenever they're in the Trop. I mean, Corey Dickerson took his frustration out with Miami this past weekend, and now, of course, it was Christian Arroyo, who really didn't do jack with the Rays. He goes 2 for 4 tonight. He's batting .429, but that's in limited action. I believe that's probably one of the first games he's played. I don't think he's gotten a whole lot of at-bats this year. I think it was waived earlier this season by the Rays, in fact. But he gets on, and then Verdugo, fielder's choice. But then Devers hits a single, again, another Rays slayer. So a couple of men on, and at that point, Fleming is really not challenging anyone with a step. He's only gotten through 4 1/3, though, but they take him out, early exit. Ryan Thompson comes in to clean up the situation with 2 men on and only 1 out. Again, Fleming's line finishes 4 1/3, 3 earned runs, 6 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed, 75 pitches. 47 of them were for strikes. His ERA is up to 4.12, and again, he faced 20 batters, threw first pitch strike to only 11 of them. His calling card is control on the fastball. He can put it where he wants it, allegedly. I say that a little bit with the tongue in the cheek, of course. I mean, he's been good. He started off 3-0 after his first 3 starts, but tonight was just a bit off. Certainly probably the biggest challenge of his major league career, his fledgling career thus far, against a Red Sox lineup that it's got a lot of heavy hitters. So he'll be back at it again in 5 days. I believe we look at the schedule. ESPN has him slated to start against the Washington Nationals on a Wednesday afternoon. So that may be some daytime baseball. Will get Josh Fleming back in the right direction. We certainly hope so. No decision for him tonight, so that breaks his first 3 starts, resulting in a win. And then Ryan Thompson again comes in with 2 men on. When you're down 1 run and only 1 out, and of course, what does he do? Gets Bogarts to pop out and JD Martinez to strike out. So 2 of the Red Sox better hitters. Ryan Thompson retires again. Now, at this point in the season, he has come in and inherited a total of 10 base runners throughout those appearances, and guess how many he's allowed to score? 0 of them. I mean, talk about clutch of a reliever. He's the sidewinding righty, kind of the opposite of a Adam Clark, if you will, as he came from the left side, but kind of that similar action. It is kind of weird, the righty sidearm. But it's like he can throw it away from lefties and into righties. It's weird what he can do to manipulate the baseball. He's almost kind of got a screwball in there. Really tough to hit, generates a ton of weak contact. So obviously that was one of the bright spots, certainly for the Rays in a losing effort tonight. And keeps maybe potentially 2 runs being added on to Fleming's record. His book finishes with 3 earned runs charged to him. And that ends the top of the 5th. Bottom of the 5th we go. The Rays tie it, but the pinch hits fail. Margot singles and gets a stolen base again. It seemed like he was doing that all night. Yoshi pinch hits and flies out. He pinch hits for Randy Arozarena. So again, that was kind of what we were talking about, swapping the righty with the lefty as the bullpen was kind of trending in that direction. I believe it was Ryan Weber on at that point, so that was a lefty. So maybe I don't necessarily I don't get it, but Yoshi in that spot flies out. Meadows with a ground rule double knocks in a run and ties it up. So that was good to see for him. Finally hit for extra bases, and you think maybe he's getting headed back in the right direction. Then Choi pinch hits with, again, Meadows sending at second. He pinch hits for the cleanup man Brasso, and what else does he do but strike out? And then Renfroe strikes out looking. So again, that was the second time that Renfroe struck out, or no, the second time that Renfroe recorded an out with men on base. So That's kind of thing with him. He hits the home run, and it, 447 feet, it goes, to the moon. But when there's men on base, he strikes out. That's what he does. I mean, you think back to opening night, the bases loaded in the ninth, and what does he do? He strikes out looking on a full count. I mean, that's just it. That's what the Hunter Renfroe experience in a Rays uniform has been. He's been talking about that he's had a hard time adjusting to the lights in Tropicana Field. I can tell you, Eric Neander and company looks at that and says, "All right, we're going to ship you out of town." I mean, you say something like that, don't expect to kind of stick around, and if you're not going to try and maybe improve on it. So top of the sixth, the bullpen works a 1-2-3 sixth inning. Yoshi moves to DH, Choi to first base. Thompson gets Vasquez and Munoz out, and then Ryan Sheriff comes in and gets Jackie Bradley Jr. So to get that lefty on lefty, bases empty, 2 outs. But with the 3-batter minimum doesn't apply if he finishes the inning. So and maybe just to get Sheriff some action, he only throws 2 pitches in the at bat, and again gets Jackie Bradley Jr. So that was good to see from him. And now we go to the bottom of the sixth. The Rays miss another chance. Of course they do. Lau walks and then gets to second on a wild pitch during Wendell's at-bat. So that was later in the inning. So right now it's Lau on first start. Adames strikes out. And now I know about him that they mentioned on the broadcast. 10 of 11 of his last at-bats at the Trop have resulted in strikeouts. Again, his last 11 at-bats in Tropicana Field, 10 of them have been strikeouts. It's really bizarre, and this has been going on even since his rookie year in 2018 and last year in 2019. He's always better on the road. The home road splits are so bizarre. It's kind of inexplicable what it is. Something that happened later in the game, that is just something that I am just so curious about. But again, I mean, 10 of his last 11 at-bats resulting in a strikeout in that park is not good to see. I mean, there was a point where I was sitting in this chair on this show saying that Willy Adames is the best hitter in the lineup, and at that time he was batting over 300. I mean, we're in the point of the season where 30, 40 games in. I mean, that's pretty significant. And then, of course, what does he do but completely fall off? And that was something I was kind of pondering during the game. The Rays aren't necessarily a Yankees lineup where they're depending on a DJ LeMahieu and Aaron Judge, a Stanton to carry the lineup. It's no particular guy. They kind of ride the hot hand, but what do you do when there is no hot hand? That's really the case for the Rays right now. There's nowhere you can really go for him. Also, it looks like Austin Meadows snapped an 0 for 18 run with the double, so that's good to see. That was courtesy of Topkin. I was looking to see if there was any note about him, about Adames, but there was not. So again, Lau on second. Adames strikes out. Nate Lowe pinch hits and flies out. He pinch hits for the catcher, so that makes sense. And I believe that was to get a righty-lefty matchup as well. So they do that, and he flies out. So that's unfortunate. At this point in the season, in limited at-bats, he's batting .071. But he's walked a ton, at .235 on base percentage. So that's like a jump of like 150 points. So, he can get on base, I guess, but the bat hasn't necessarily been there. And then Wendell strikes out looking on a 3-2 count. And during that at-bat, Lau gets into scoring position. So, of course, you get to second base and immediately strand him there. What else would it be? Top of the seventh, Fairbanks lets the game get away from him. Fairbanks comes on, Perez in to catch. Dalbec strikes out. Arroyo hitting an infield single, of course. Verdugo walks to make it first and second with 1 out. And then it's Rafael Devers with an RBI single to make it 4-3. And for Fairbanks, that was his first earned run during his last 12 appearances. So again, I mean, you see the 2.35 ERA, the 2.75 ERA, the 4-1 record coming in tonight. He's been one of the Rays' better relievers, and also just to start overtime, 30 seconds in, it's the Dallas Stars winning 3-2 over the Golden Knights. So they take a 2-1 series lead. So. It looks like not necessarily a driver's seat, but a hockey team that's pretty hot right now in the Dallas Stars. They now have a series lead over the Vegas Golden Knights. I think I was talking about Rafael Devers, his line tonight. He goes, of course, 3 for 4, 3 runs knocked in. Seems like he always plays really well against the Rays, and it was no different tonight. And now I was talking about Pete Fairbanks as well. So at that point, that RBI single made it 4-3, and then he gets Xander Bogaerts to fly out and JD Martinez, to strike out. So at least he cleans up kind of the mess he created, but he did give up a run and put the Rays kind of in a losing position. Again, Fairbanks ultimately does get the loss. An inning pitched, earned a run on 2 hits. Also walks a man, strikes out 2. Again, 23 pitches, 13 for strikes. He faced 6 batters and threw first pitch strike to 5 of them. I mean, he's a guy, that can reach 97 or so on the fastball, and you're throwing first pitch strikes. Do you think that puts you in a pretty good position to win? I don't know. Maybe he just kind of caught a couple bad breaks tonight. I don't exactly know, but wasn't his best stuff. And some better race hitters, some better Red Sox hitters. Verdugo and Devers getting it done. Bottom of the 7th, the Rays' offense continues to stagnate. It was Margot to fly out, and then at that point they bring in Springs instead of Weber. Yoshi strikes out looking, Meadows walks, and then Choi grounds out. So, again, more of the same. Really nothing from the top of the lineup, even after the pinch hits were made. Top of the 8th, a great 8th inning from John Curtis. Curtis is on to face the 5, 6, 7 hitters, gets Vasquez to fly out, Munoz to strike out, and Jackie Bradley Jr. to strike out. There was an article on D. Rays Bay today, basically talking about, John Curtis and how good of a reliever he's been. Not a guy that we really expected to be much. He was on the 60-man, but not on the opening day roster, and of course, all those injuries with the bullpen guys going down. And he comes up, and he's really been lights out. I mean, I don't know, let's see his record, but he has a 1.62 ERA. I know that's one of the lowest on the team. He's got a save. He's one of, 10 players or something with that. This season, he is... I don't know why they can't just give you the ERA, but I mean, he just doesn't give up runs. I mean, he's good. He's lights out. He was a closer in college. He was kind of brought up in the minor leagues as a closer, so he's used to those kind of high leverage spots. You're in the 8th inning, down a run, not necessarily going to use up a Castillo or an Anderson, but you need a guy that can make good pitches just to keep you in the game, because at the same time, it's a 1-run game. A home run ties things up. So John Curtis, kept him in the game again. His ERA is lowered to 1.62. Another thing that I like, 13 pitches, 12 for strikes. I mean, that again, throwing with conviction is such a big thing, especially in the major leagues. And Josh Fleming has shown it at times, kind of got burned with it tonight. But to prove the point, you don't necessarily have to have, the best stuff. If you throw with conviction and you can challenge hitters, more times than not, you'll be coming away with some outs recorded. I mean, that's something that hitters talk about all the time. Is it's easier to walk in today's game than ever because pitchers just can't throw strikes. They're so focused with the spin rate and the velocity, chucking the ball as hard as they can, but not even bothering if it goes in the strike zone. And nowadays, hitters will just take those pitches easily. They've learned to sit on them. So if you can learn to throw strikes and actually challenge these hitters, you'll have a lot of success. And that's something that the Rays preach, whether they're bringing in a reliever at the trade deadline, something they try to do with Edgar Garcia, and there wasn't enough to him. But guys like that, again, Nick Anderson was already good. I mean, his stats in Miami weren't great, but I mean, obviously the Rays can't take credit for everything, but I mean, Nick Anderson has been the definition of automatic out of the bullpen, and part of it, he just throws strikes. He will blow the 95-mile-an-hour fastball right by you and dare you to hit it, and more times than not, including late in games, they can't touch it. So ultimately, to make a long story even longer, there was, some praise in the media, if you will, from John Curtis today. And of course, he has a nice outing, a clean inning with 2 strikeouts to keep the Rays in the game. Bottom of the 8th, down to their final 3 outs they go. Ryan Brazier comes on. Kevin Kiermaier pinch hits and, of course, strikes out. Also, I just want to note, they announced on Twitter that baby number 2 is on the way. I think they had their first kid a year and a half or so ago. So congratulations, certainly in order to the Kiermaier family. Baby number 2 on the way for them, but strikes out in a pinch hit appearance tonight. Gets the night off in center field, obviously, against the lefty, so you have Margot out there in center. Brandon Lau flies out, and then up comes Adames with 2 outs and the bases empty. You think, oh, not really big deal, but guess what? He comes out wearing glasses, not shades, obviously, in the trop, but like a clear kind of glasses, whatever, like the athlete kind of goggle type. I was looking at Mark Tompkins' Twitter, the Rays beat reporter. I figured there would, be a note about that. Someone would be asking in the Zoom room. I cannot find anything about it. Usually maybe when you see something like that, like they've got an issue with something in their eye, they don't want to get dirt in it or whatever. But going into that at bat, let's see. I mean, he was, At that point, he was 0 for 2, I think, or something. Or no, he's 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. So he was a strikeout away from the golden sombrero. And of course, when that's all you can bring to the table, why not put on the glasses, I guess? I don't know. It was just such a bizarre thing to see. And if he walks in that at bat, so of course he gets on base with the glasses, and then Michael Perez strikes out to leave him there. Top of the ninth, it was Aaron Loop getting a 1-2-3 inning. Dalbec strikes out, Arroyo flies out, and Verdugo is retired. So that was nice to see Loop keep him in the game. And at bottom of the ninth, the Rays get the tying run 90 feet away with 2 outs, and also at second base with 1 out, and cannot bring him home, of course. Barnes comes on for the save. I believe he'd been put in like 9 save opportunities. He only had 4 going into it. He gets his 5th here tonight. And then Wendell starts off with a walk. So obviously that's something I talk about all the time with putting a good kind of hitter, a good on base type guy in the 9-hole. Usually that's where you put the catcher or the automatic out, as it were. But when you can put a guy like Wendell who can get on base in the 9-hole, and then you flip the lineup over to Margot and Rosarena, which ended up to be Shitsugo and Meadows and those guys, that gives you a chance to generate some offense. So he starts off with a leadoff walk, and that's the tying run on the base path with nobody out. You like that. And then Margot gets on base via the fielder's choice. It was obviously Wendell on the 4. So I think you like that. You don't love the out, but you kind of trade it to get Margot on the base path, and of course he's going to make it count. During Yoshi's at bat on a 2-2 count, Margot steals his 11th base of the season. He steals second, and then Yoshi strikes out on the next pitch. He finishes 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. He's only batting 190 right now, so obviously not in love with that. But it's not the end of the world. It's 1 out, runner at second. You like that for sure. And then, that was with 2 outs at second base. And then up comes Meadows. During that at-bat, Margot gets to third on a wild pitch. So Meadows, what should be one of your better hitters, he's third in the order, tying run 90 feet away. And what does he do? He strikes out looking. He doesn't put up a fight. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to try and necessarily ponder at that. It's unfortunate that it kind of takes away from what was a good outing, from him, starting in the right direction. Walks twice, gets a ground rule double, I think, to tie the game up. So, I mean, you hate to see it, but the strikeout looking with Margot at third really hurts. They lose by a score of 4-3. It was Fairbanks getting the loss. He was a big part of that. If he had just, kept things scoreless, it would have been a 3-3 game. But with the way the offense looked, it didn't look like they were going to be able to score any runs anytime soon. So, and they were mentioned on the radio broadcast as well. I mean, the Rays really haven't been in control of a ball game really since last Friday. So we're at that point where it's been pretty much an entire week. I mean, you look back, those two losses in Washington, they only scored runs in an inning in each of those games. It was like the 6th inning in the first one and in the 8th inning in the second. They didn't get any runs in the other 16 innings. And then, of course, Miami on Sunday, you walk it off in the 10th, so you weren't ever in control of that ball game. You get blown out on Saturday, and it was really Friday, that 5-4 win. That was the last time they were in control in a game. So, on a skid right now, they're still the best record in the American League. From Tompkin on Twitter, Lau says, on losing 3 straight, 4 or 5, he said, quote, "There's no reason to start stressing, start freaking out." That's exactly right. And that's something, I would say. I mean, it's easy to get frustrated, and even I am a bit guilty of that tonight. But I think, I could say it every night. It's not exactly what the Rays are going to do in September during the next 3 weeks to win and set themselves up maybe for a better playoff seed. It's about what they can do to improve themselves for October. It's not necessarily whether it translates to wins or not, but guys like Brandon Lau, Austin Meadows, they have to start performing the way the Rays need them to perform. The Rays roster is constructed a certain way, and if the key cogs aren't spinning, the machine just isn't going to run. And right now we're seeing that. We saw that in late July, early August, when the offense just wasn't cooking and the starting rotation had an enormous strain put on it. You see Morton go down. I'm not blaming it on that. He wasn't ready to start the year anyway, and then Trinos goes down. But then that put a big strain on your bullpen, and I think that you can blame on it. I mean, Drake goes down, Alvarado goes down. I mean, there was a whole slew of guys. I think I have the list somewhere here. I mean, I think there is still like 8 or 9 arms on the injury list, and it's just insane. And that's what happens when the offense isn't performing and things like that. So not great to see. But nothing to get concerned about, obviously. They have 3 games upcoming against the Red Sox to maybe get it straightened out. You think they'll be able to put some more runs on the board against probably the worst pitching staff in the majors. So that's really all I can say about it. Pitching staff, the relievers look good except for Fairbanks and an off start from Fleming. And then in the lineup, not a lot of bright spots. Margot is generating a lot of offense all on his own. Meadows starting in the right direction and then strikes out looking for the final out. Renfroe hits a home run, but then he records 2 outs with men on base in other innings. So, for every bright spot, there's a negative to draw from it. So, I think they really this is one of those nights in a 4-3 game to a team that you're much better than. You just have to put it behind you and move on. You have 3 games in front of you, and that's all you can control, so the Rays are going to have to do that. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. We're going to take a short break. Not really a lot of scores to give you. I'll just say right now in the fourth quarter, it's the Chiefs 31-13 over the Texans, so they're going to close that out, and they'll be 1-0. And then college football, the only game tonight, late in the fourth quarter, or midway through, it's the Miami Hurricanes 31-14 over UAB. So when we come back, not a whole much more left in the show. We'll preview tomorrow's Rays game, and then we'll preview also the Bucs game on Sunday, some other NFL action, and maybe talk some Florida State football. But that's about it. Again, if you want to call, we'll take even some more Rays calls during the break. After the break, 877-566-1020. We'll be right back.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCStream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:09, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Final 10 minutes or so of the program. Just a couple of notes I wanted to get out of the way. A stat that I mentioned to bring up, and this is courtesy of the Rays radio broadcast on WDAE. In the month of September, the Rays have batted 192 on base of 279 and a slugging of just 371. So if you're not familiar with those two stats at the end, that's still not very good. And obviously the 192 below the Mendoza line as a team, that speaks for itself. And they've only averaged 3.5 runs per game in the month of September. So these 10 days have not been kind to the Rays. Luckily, they're still first place in the American League, first place in the American League East as well, obviously. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Of course, it doesn't affect the Rays really that much, but obviously we want to see the Yankees miss the playoffs. But in a 3-game series, I don't think it really matters what your seed is. You're just going to have to be a good roster. I think in the first round, teams with a good rotation would be favored, like not necessarily this year, but the Nationals of last year. I mean, if that was this year, and maybe the Nats still do get in the playoffs. They're I think 10 games or so under 500. But they can always sneak back in. I mean, I think Strasburg is out, but for example, if he was, I mean, you have Scherzer in game 1, then Strasburg, then Corbin. How are you going to beat that in a 3-game series? And I think, include like a Houston Astros from last year, you go Verlander, Cole, and Greinke. I mean, that's just hard to beat. And I think the Rays, if everyone is good, that's going to be good to go. I think they want to get Morton back, and he probably will be. I think out of the gate, you probably go, I would be inclined to go Snell game 1, then Glasnow, and then maybe Morton in game 3. But they could go Fleming, they could go Yarbrough. They wouldn't obviously go Fleming, but potentially Yarbrough. I think they would rather have Morton, but you get the idea. So that's really all about that. And also a programming note, I'll be off tomorrow. I know we're usually on during the nighttime, a Monday through Friday, including during the Rays game, but I'll be doing some stuff, getting ready for FSU football on Saturday. I'll be there at the game against Georgia Tech, so that's all good. So we'll get you caught up on everything on there. And so in doing that, we don't know who the pitchers are going to be for the Red Sox, really. On tomorrow, it'll be Snell and Triggs at 6:40. On Saturday, also at 6:40, it's Glasnow for the Rays, unknown for the Sox. And then on Sunday, it'll be Morton and Martin Perez. And then the Rays will be off Monday. I'll still be on the air on Monday, obviously, because of a full week 1 of both college football and NFL action, including a Bucs game. Obviously, this is a Tampa Bay centralized show, so the Bucs really are going to be a key cog of conversation. I haven't really thought about doing a preview just because no preseason. NFL is different now. I think anyone that, people that do division predictions, I understand maybe it's it comes from the higher ups. I have the fortunate nature of being able to produce my own shows. I don't have anyone from the top down telling me how to run my shows. But I think anyone that tries to tell you that they know who's going to win the divisions and everything, I think they're selling you a line of crap. I mean, no preseason games, no real media availability at practice at any sort, really, because of the COVID stuff. We really don't know what these teams are going to be. You can always judge on paper, but every year people do that, and they're wrong. But I think after a week, 2, maybe even 3, we'll have a good idea of what these teams are looking like. I think, obviously, the Bucs are, they say in the NFL there's about, I think it was Bill Belichick who says this, there's like 5 or so teams every year that can actually win a Super Bowl, and I think the Bucs are one of those because they have everything. They have the offensive line, I don't know how it's going to play. They add, obviously, Tristan Wirfs. But they're missing, obviously DeMar Dotson leaves, but I think that could be addition potentially by subtraction. And then you look, Donovan Smith looks like he's opting out. He's been the left tackle for 4 or 5 years there in Tampa, but it looks like maybe Tristan Wirfs is going to be thrust into the fire to play left tackle. I don't know exactly. I mean, decent interior with Ali Marpet, Jansen, and I don't know who they're exactly going to go at right guard. So, I mean, 3 of the linemen I like, but there's going to be 2 that are potentially, are going to shuffle around or what have you. The receivers look good for week 1. I'm not sure. It looks like Mike Evans, a soft tissue injury. That's all they would say. I think he's questionable for the game on Sunday. Obviously, if you've watched the Jameis Winston Bucks, you know how much of a significant decline that offense takes when Mike Evans is not a part of it or he's not at full strength. Obviously, if he's going to play with a soft tissue injury, I don't expect him to go up leaping for all these crazy, high throws or anything like that. You probably just use him on slants and, stuff like that. He's not going to be doing any type of jump balls as much. Tom Brady is different because he can actually put accuracy and put touch on some of the short intermediate throws. But the whole point, I think, of the Tom Brady, the check down experience, throwing 5 yards to the running back every time, it worked in New England without a deep threat, but I think when you have a guy like Mike Evans that can demand double coverage, it really opens up all the kind of short and intermediate stuff. So the offense will suffer in week 1, especially against a very good Saints team without Mike Evans, but they'll be able to make do. I mean, they'll still be able to score, I would say, probably 24 points or so with, Chris Godwin, and they've got the 3 tight ends being with O.J. Howard being the main one, although the word out of camp is he's not on the same page with Brady as far as the option routes, as far as the way Brady works, with the routes, it's not exactly set. There's one of 2, and it's the receiver's job to read the defense during the play and run one of the 2 routes. And Brady expects you to be right, and he throws it to where the receiver should be. But if the receiver runs the wrong route, then he's just throwing it out there for a defender to intercept it, and that's only going to take 1 or 2 times for Brady to lose faith in you as a player. But it looks like O.J. Howard, obviously the most talented. It looks like he's at his best right now. Something that I think is going to be such a big deal with so many of these receivers, I think Chris Godwin will be a huge beneficiary. O.J. Howard, I mean, these guys, and Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times that covers the Bucs was mentioning this. The receivers are just conditioned with playing with Jameis Winston that, it's not about catching the ball and running or, setting yourself up. You have to, stop your momentum just to catch the ball because it's not accurate. Winston is throwing it behind you. He's going to throw it and let you get lit up. Brady doesn't do that. He protects his receivers, and these receivers are going to be able to learn how to catch it in stride and actually turn upfield with the ball, with momentum, and that's where those yards after catch are going to come from. The Jameis Winston offense did not include a lot of that. He would throw it behind guys, and they'd have to stop running and turn around and all that kind of stuff, especially the checkdowns to the running backs. I mean, I love Winston more than anyone, I think, as far as Bucs fans go, but even I can admit he missed checkdowns, 5 yards to running backs. He would throw it at their ankles, and it would either be an incompletion or he'd have to dive to go get it, and at that point, that defeats the point of the check down because you're supposed to throw it at his chest so he can easily make a move upfield, and he's having to bend at his shoelaces to get the football. That's not exactly the purpose, but Brady is great at that. He's been doing that for 2 decades, and Chris Godwin is going to be getting a lot of more yards after catch. Brady can actually put his slant where it's supposed to be, where Godwin can keep running and turn upfield. I think O.J. Howard is going to be a huge beneficiary of that because he's a guy from the tight end position that is athletic. He can run. He's got a big frame, all that stuff. And then you got Kim and Brait, who can take a hit as good as anyone catching traffic. And then Rob Gronkowski, I'm not sure how much he's going to play. Obviously, he's got a jacked up back. He's had knee issues his whole career. He's over 30. But he had a year off last year, the party, the Gronk cruise, whatever, the fiesta. That's all fine and good. And he'll be a nice red zone threat. I don't think they're really going to use him that much. Bruce Arians doesn't really use a whole lot of tight ends anyway. They said they were going to do two tight end sets last year, and they really didn't. I think the offense is really going to change. And I think that was the huge influence of Tom Brady is Bruce Arians, who has not ever changed his offense for anyone. It's the going deep down the field with the deep threats, and he will still do some of those concepts. But he even had mentioned this is not going to be the same offense. We're building it around Brady and what he's been winning 6 Super Bowls with over the last 20 years. It's the checkdowns, the short intermediate throws, leaning on the run game. And I think that's also where some of these additions with the running back comes in. I don't necessarily get the addition of LaShawn McCoy. He can catch out of the backfield, and maybe that's why. He looked fine, I guess, for the Chiefs when they played him, but he's not the same Shady McCoy as he was. Obviously, Ronald Jones, we thought would be the bell cow. Who knows? He struggled to catch the ball. He circled in pass protection. I think that's one thing the Rays are lacking. I absolutely hated that they did not include Daria Ngumbawale on the 53-man roster. I'll probably reference that throughout the season. He was a guy that was the best pass-blocking running back. He could catch out of the backfield, and he was the captain on special teams. And obviously, Jason Light and Bruce Arians, they get paid a lot more money to do their job than I do to sit here and critique their decisions. But from just the reasons I listed, I don't love that move. They're missing a running back that can pass protect, and maybe they just don't need one. If all the running backs are going to be going out for checkdowns, they're never going to need to block. But I don't know. Ngumbawale, I think they'll miss them. Now the 3 running backs is Ronald Jones, LaShawn McCoy, now Leonard Fournette, who they picked up. And when they picked him up, I didn't necessarily get the move. But then you look a little deeper into it. Fournette was saying in the press conference, part of the reason why he chose to come to the Bucs because he was a free agent. He could make that choice. He could finally play with a good quarterback. Obviously, a slight thrown at Blake Bortles, I think, more than anyone, but also Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles of last year. Leonard Fournette was a great running back in college and even to the NFL when they went to the playoffs. I think in 2018, and they went to the AFC Championship, and if that call on the Miles Jack, I think, fumble recovery had been called correctly, it would have been the Jacksonville Jaguars playing the Philadelphia Eagles in that Super Bowl in Minnesota, but of course it wasn't in Foxborough. The Patriots get the call, and they go on and eventually lose to the Eagles. If I said Phillies, I apologize. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. But the point was that's how that Jaguars team was built. It was behind Leonard Fournette in the time of possession and letting the defense do what it does. Not necessarily the way the Buccaneers are going to play. But I think, and someone had mentioned this, I don't forget who is to credit, but they were saying the addition of Leonard Fournette is when the Bucs are up 2 touchdowns in the second half, and you just need to burn the clock. I mean, that's something that the Bucs have failed with time and time again. With Jameis Winston, the turnovers really prevented them from doing that, but it seemed like they had a lead in every game at halftime, and they come out and go 3 and out the first 3 drives. Then all of a sudden, the defense is exhausted for the rest of the game. And this, I don't think people understand this. I played football at the high school level. I'm not going to admit to playing college or NFL football, but I guess people that don't play football think that, the defense can just, get energized on the sideline. It does help to a point, but once the defense is tired, it's pretty much tired for the rest of the game. So when you tax that defense out, having them on the field so much, you can't get it back, and they're just going to be gassed for the rest of that second half. And that's what happened to the Bucs. The people that are predicting the Bucs to do whatever they are this season, they're like, the defense isn't that good. Well, the defense, for what it was one of the best units in the NFL. They were, I believe, passed against a lot. And they were challenged that way. They've added some guys to the defensive back room. Antoine Whitfield Jr. is going to be a starting safety as a rookie. I think that's a bold move, but they obviously like him out of Minnesota over, I think, Justin Evans. And I don't know who the other safety is, Jordan Whitehead, or they've got some guys. And that's the thing, too. They release the depth charts and everything like that, but we won't really know who the starters are and things like that until we see them play on Sunday. So I'll know a little bit better with some of the names. But, some of the cornerbacks, Carlton Davis, you hope will have improved. And they've got some guys, MJ Stewart, I think they're trying to transition to some sort of a nickelback, guys like that. But they played well for what they were. I think with Brady not giving the ball away in key moments like Winston did, it's going to help everyone. It's going to help, the defense. It's going to help, the offense with the time of possession and get them into a rhythm. Sky's really the limit for what this team can be. They have a great coaching staff. I think, Bruce Arians is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. Todd Bowles, as a DC, he really is a head coach caliber guy. Didn't necessarily work out with the Jets, but he almost took them to the playoffs. And who has done that recently besides Rex Ryan? The defense was really good, and I think that's anytime you can have a head coach kind of guy as a coordinator, it really helps. And then I don't even know if they have an offensive, or I'm sorry, I totally disrespected Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator. But Bruce Arians kind of stepped in and stepped out as far as the play calling. Brady can probably call the plays from his wristband. I'm not necessarily. Byron Leftwich was kind of in there to work with Winston. I think more than anything, it's going to be Brady teaching Leftwich. I would have checked how old. I think Brady might be older than Leftwich, which would just be like absolutely absurd. I mean, it's weird because some of these players on the Bucs weren't even born when Brady was playing his first NFL game. It's just bizarre, and I'm just trying to see Byron Leftwich, how old he is. He is 40 years old, so him and Brady are about the same age. There's a picture of him in a Jaguars uniform shaking hands with Brady midfield. So they played against each other. So that's kind of a weird dynamic, but kind of neat. But I think the offense will be good, and I think that in turn, as I explained, will help the defense be a little bit better. As I always tend to do, make a long story even longer. I just want to touch on this, and then we'll move on completely to the NFL. I kind of moved off the Rays. Tomorrow night, it'll be Aaron Jude Triggs against Blake Snell. Triggs, the right-handed pitcher. He's 0-1 with a 6 ERA and only 6 innings pitched. So we look at his appearances. He's got some out of the pen, a couple of 3-inning appearances, and then one where he got an out and then gave up 3 earned runs. So he got blown up once, and that was us. August the 2nd, and then he didn't pitch for a whole month and comes back So he was actually traded from San Francisco to Boston, and then with Boston, he had a couple of 3-inning appearances where he gave up 3 earned runs to Atlanta and an earned run to the Blue Jays. Obviously, both of those 3 innings. It's going to be another bullpen day for the Sox, so that is what it is. And then on the other side of things is Blake Snell, who's 3-1 with a 3.74 ERA. I mean, at times where you think he's back to his Cy Young self, and he kind of laid a bit of an egg last time out, although he does go 5 innings. His last time out, obviously, against the Marlins, 5 innings, 4 earned runs on 6 hits, gives up a home run, walks 3, strikes out 8 through 92 pitches, gets the losing decision there. His last time out against the Red Sox, he has 1 start against them, and that was, mind you, before he was fully stretched out. I mean, this is pretty crazy line. 5 innings pitched, no earned runs on 4 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts, in only 70 pitches. That was when he was still getting stretched out, obviously. So he dominated them in Fenway. Hopefully he can do more of the same and kind of get back on track. His last couple starts, he left a lot of meat on the bone, and he's always talked about trying to go 7 or 8. I'm not sure he's ever going to be that guy, but he talks a big game. He's a 4-pitch pitcher. They all work when he's on. The fastball is great. He works a changeup off of that, and then the slider and curveball are both good pitches too. So, hopefully get him going. Obviously, he's going to be a very big part of what they do in the postseason. Started 1 game in the ALDS last year, and I think came out of the pen in the other one, if I'm not mistaken. He came on for a save in Game 4, and I was there in Tropicana that night. That was a pretty wild moment when he came out of the bullpen. And that'll be one of the things he's remembered by, I think, as a Ray. But that's neither here nor there. I'm interested to see, though, what he'll do in October this season when the Rays get there. And also, it looks like the Hurricanes have gone final over the UAB Blazers. The final score is 31-14 in favor of Miami. De'Aaron King looked okay, the transfer quarterback. The Florida State Seminoles will see him and the rest of the Canes in a couple of weeks, so that's why I was kind of keeping my eyes on this game, and I think they just kind of overmatched a UAB team. So with leaving all of that behind, also the Chiefs, 34-20 is the final score for the Texans. So I'm not sure what the point spread was. I still think that the Texans didn't cover it. I couldn't imagine it would be 14 points, but they come back a little bit, but the Chiefs ultimately 1-0, Texans 0-1. So there's that. The rest of the NFL points, I'll give you picks against the spread. I don't necessarily have strong thoughts about all these games, but I'll try and do the best that I can. And again, Vegas is giving the home team 3 points. I don't necessarily know why. Some stadiums aren't having fans at all. Some are having limited. I mean, watching, maybe, 10,000 people in Arrowhead. It's not Arrowhead. It's not a home field advantage, but I don't know. I mean, in Atlanta at 1 o'clock, Falcons and Seahawks. The Seahawks are 2.5-point road favorites. I would expect probably the Seahawks to cover that. Atlanta, I think, can do some threat. I mean, people are picking them to win the division. The window, I guess, the playoff window is still open. Julio Jones, I think, is a little banged up. I think Dirk Cutter is still running that offense, too. And Matt Ryan at the helm, obviously, a defense that was ravished with injuries the last couple of years. So I don't know exactly what to make of that. I know they've done some shuffling around. I think this is Coach Quinn's final chance to crap or get off the pot, as they say. He was almost fired last year, and I think they stick with him. So I don't know exactly what will come of that, but I think in week 1, the Seahawks will probably come in there and get a win. They were one of the better teams in the NFC last year, so I'll have them to win and cover the 2.5. Jets and Bills, New York showdown. The Buffalo in Buffalo. Barstool Stadium, no, they did not get the naming rights. But the Bills, 6.5-point favorites. That's at 1 o'clock on CBS. I would imagine the Bills are probably going to cover that. I mean, that's a touchdown. The Jets, I don't imagine how they're going to win more than 5 games this year. I mean, Sam Darnold, fine and great. Adam Gase, I don't think is the answer at head coach. Their defense is not great. They don't have a lot of pieces around Donald. They've got a couple of receivers, but, tight end, running back, offensive line is all kind of lacking. So a Bills team that made the playoffs last year is a wild card, and I would imagine will probably win the AFC East this year. I'll probably have them to win and cover the 6.5 against the Jets. In Detroit, the Lions and Bears. The Lions at 1 o'clock on Fox are a 3-point favorite. That's kind of a toss-up. A lot of people like Detroit this year. I think with Coach Matt Patricia, the Bill Belichick disciple, kind of getting that team turned in the right direction. He was on the hot seat a little bit, I guess, but now all of a sudden everyone's on him. They've got great running backs. I think he's slowly trying to kind of transition that from a team that is a Matt Stafford do everything type to a team that can do power run and defense. They trade Slay away. I mean, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. If it's the Patriot way, it doesn't really matter what the names are on the roster. It's just the system and how they perform. That's a toss-up, and usually you go with the home team, and again, the home team's getting 3. I don't necessarily know. It's going to be Mitch Trubisky instead of Nick Foles for the Bears, and a team that disappointed a little bit last year. I'm going to go the Bears on the road to upset, and with the spread being so close, they'll probably win outright. But definitely to cover the +3, maybe they'll lose by 1 or 2, who knows. So I have the Bears in an upset in Minnesota. The Vikings and Packers at 1 o'clock on Fox. The Minnesota Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. That's interesting. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers certainly on a revenge tour after the Jordan Love pick and all that stuff. I mean, it's an offense that was good. They went to the NFC Championship last year. I mean, it kind of surprised a lot of people in the first year of their young head coach, Matt Fleury. The Flower they call him. So, I mean that's a tough game to call, I think. And again, there's no point in going with the home team. I'm gonna go Packers again in another NFC North road upset. Dolphins at Patriots in New England, 1 o'clock CBS. The Patriots are 6.5-point favorites. That's an interesting game to call. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to start week 1 for the Dolphins, not Tua, who I believe is completely healthy now, which is a good sign for them. Last time we saw the Dolphins at Patriots, it was in week 17, I believe, and the Dolphins upset New England, and then New England had to play in the wild card round, and they got beat by the Titans. You know the story. Brady leaves to go to the Bucs. All of that. I don't necessarily know that's going to go that way this year around. Cam Newton, Bill Belichick has been gushing over him. A Dolphins team that is probably going to take a couple weeks to figure out who they are. I know a lot of people like them, but give Bill Belichick that much time to prepare for a week 1 game like Andy Reid is so good at. Of course, they win in week 1. I'll go the Patriots to win and cover the 6.5. The Washington football team against the Eagles in D.C. The Philadelphia Eagles are 5.5-point road favorites. 1 o'clock on Fox. I'm a little bit more rapid fire. The Redskins just aren't going to be. The Washington football team. I can't believe I did that. Are just not going to be a good team this year. I don't think. Dwayne Haskins at the helm. I don't know how good he is. The Eagles, I think, are still going to be a potential playoff team with Wentz and everyone healthy. So I'll take the Eagles to win and cover against the Washington football team. At 1 o'clock on CBS, the Las Vegas Raiders at Carolina to play the Panthers. Vegas, a road 3-point favorite. I don't know about that. I'm not a big Derek Carr guy at this point with John Gruden. I guess, people are, I don't know why they're the 3.5-point favorite. I know the Panthers aren't predicted to be good. They have Teddy Bridgewater now and Matt Rule, who was so good at Baylor a year ago. I'll take, the Panthers to at least cover the +3 at home. The Colts at Jaguars at 1 o'clock on CBS. Indy is an 8-point road favorite. I would say that's about right. Phil Rivers and company going into a Jaguars team that's basically at a fire sale. They trading Ngakoue to the Vikings, and they cut Fournette. All that, they trade Nick Foles to the Bears. To cut salary. Gardner Minshew is fine, but that's not a good Jaguars football team. So that's a pretty hefty spread, especially in week 1, but I'll take the Colts on the road to win and cover the -8. The Cleveland Browns at Baltimore Ravens at 1 o'clock on CBS. The Ravens, a 7.5-point home favorite. That's going to be a tough game. It seems like the Browns always play the Ravens tough. I think the Browns are going to be a team to watch. It seems like whenever, a team is supposed to break out, it's always a year early. That was the case, I think, for the Jaguars, the year before they went to the AFC title game. And it happens, I think with the Ravens as well. Ironically enough, I think with the Browns, if they're ever going to be good, it will be this year. I would probably, I don't know if they're going to win outright, but I would have them to cover that 7.5 on the road. Again, because Baltimore, I don't think is having any fans anyway, or something limited under 10,000. At 4:05 on CBS, the Los Angeles Chargers at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chargers are a 3-point road favorite. Joe Burrow starting out right week 1. They were the worst team in football a year ago. The Chargers, I think, they're going to be making a playoff push. I'll have the Chargers on the road to cover that 3 points. At 4:25 on Fox, the Cardinals are visiting the San Francisco 49ers. The home Niners are 7-point favorites. I think the Cardinals could really make a run at this division. I think the Niners are heading for a little bit of regression. I don't necessarily like the way the roster is constructed. I'm not a big Jimmy G guy. It seems like in big games, the offense of the head coach, it always kind of unravels for them. Cal Shanahan. They always kind of unravel in big games. So I'm not big on them. I think the Cardinals with Kyler Murray and company, Cliff Kingsbury, their defense. They have DeAndre Hopkins now. They signed to a big deal. Again, I don't know if I feel confident. I would have the Cardinals at least to cover the 7, but I would probably have them win outright. And then on Sunday night at 8:20 on NBC, the first game in the new stadium in Inglewood, it's the Dallas Cowboys visiting the Los Angeles Rams. The visiting Cowboys are a 3-point favorite. It's definitely a shame there's not going to be fans. That would be cool to see a packed stadium in Inglewood. Obviously, the $5 billion palace they built, challenging Jerry World. Funny enough, they're playing the Cowboys in the first game in that stadium. So that's a tough game to call. I don't love either of these teams as much as other guys or other people do. I'm not big on the Cowboys. I'm not a big Dak Prescott guy, but the offense is still there with Zeke and Amari Cooper and all those guys. The defense was good a year ago. And the Rams team, I'm not in love with either. I'm not a big Sean McVay, Jared Goff guy. They scored 3 points in the Super Bowl, and it seemed like they were kind of broken from that point on. That's a toss-up. I'm going to go Dallas to win and cover the 3. We'll go back. I skipped over it. Of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the New Orleans Saints, and I believe it will be an empty Superdome. That'll be super weird. At 4:25 on Fox, that'll be the Joe Buck and Troy Aikman game. I'm probably going to listen to the Gene Deckerhoff call on the radio for most of the games, but I absolutely have to kind of listen to. When was the last time Joe Buck and Troy Aikman called a Bucks game? It's like crazy already. The Saints are a 3.5-point favorite, and for good reason. It's tough to call these games without bias, especially because of how good I feel about the Bucks this year. The Saints are great. Final ride, Super Bowl or bust is what Drew Brees said. They've got a good defense. They're the favorite to win the division. Obviously, Kamara had some back issues. It wasn't a holdout, I guess. Michael Thomas is probably going to catch 1,000 passes this year. They added Emmanuel Sanders to finally give Brees a number 2 alongside Michael Thomas. So it's going to be a tough offense to beat. I mean, they're going to also throw Taysom Hill in there as well. They gave him a decent-sized deal. So, in New Orleans, but it doesn't really matter that it's in NOLA. I don't know. Vegas likes the Saints, and I'll go with the Saints to win and cover the 3.5. And then on Monday, it's a doubleheader, as they always do, an evening game and a late game. The 7:15 game on ESPN, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the New York Football Giants. The visiting Steelers are favored by 6 points. The Giants, I don't know, they look like an 8-8 team to me. Daniel Jones is coming around. They've got some guys on defense, but DeAndre Baker they released because of all the drama going on with him. He may be seeing some jail time. That was a first-round pick from a year ago, so I don't really know. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, fine, great. Limited a little bit in the receiving core. The offensive line is supposed to be improved. They've tried to make some improvements along there. We'll have to wait and see. That's kind of after week 1, I'll have a better idea what these teams are. The Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, it's going to be a revenge tour. Give me the Steelers to win and cover on the road in New York. I don't know. I would doubt they're having fans. I believe Cuomo and company said no fans in New York. Although it is New Jersey, so I don't know if Cuomo presides over that, as MetLife is in the state of New Jersey. So I don't know if there's fans or not. We'll see. But give me the Steelers to win and cover the 6. And the final game at 10:10. It kicks off on Monday night. The Tennessee Titans going to Denver to play the Broncos. The visiting Titans, are 2-point favorites on ESPN. So Mike Vrabel and company, I think they're a 9-7, 10-6 team perennially at this point. I don't know about the Ryan Tannehill experience. They've committed to it. They gave him the 4-year contract, I believe. I mean, power run game, Derrick Henry, they do what they do. They took it all the way to the AFC Championship game. It's a proven method. They play good defense. The Broncos, I don't know. I like Drew Lock. I still think he's a little bit rough around the edges, but he had moxie last year late in games. Von Miller's out for the year, so that's certainly going to hurt them. I don't see how they make the playoffs at this point. They don't have a lot really at any position group. They're a team I'm going to have to see. I want to see their system. I want to see how they play. But I know what the Tennessee Titans are, and it obviously travels, especially on the road. Mile High. Doesn't matter. Give me the Titans to win and cover the 2 points. So that's so exciting, really. To finally been talking some NFL football. It really snuck up on us pretty quick. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And then I'll just dabble in some college football a little bit. It looks like the games, not really much at all to talk about. Notre Dame hosting Duke. Notre Dame a 20-point favorite. I would probably have them to cover that. And then really the only other game besides the Florida State game, Clemson at Wake Forest. Clemson is a 33-point favorite in Wake. And the net game on Saturday. I don't know. Clemson will probably cover. They'll win by 50, I'm sure. And then I believe it is Georgia Tech visiting Florida State. I'll be there. I'll be one of the 10,000, however many's there, at 3:30 on Saturday. The Florida State Seminoles are favored by 12.5. I'm super excited to see Florida State play this year. I'm interested to kind of see the Mike Norvell experience. But I think Georgia Tech still has too long a way to go. They're running a pro-style offense with, triple option players. That's still going to take a couple years to transition. The coach is certainly pointing them in the right direction, but I just don't think they have enough to work with. Florida State, there's a culture change. Mike Norvell, I heard today, saying that the team in total added on 700 pounds of total body weight. The nutrition and staff overhaul certainly made a difference, even in a weird off season where there wasn't the same kind of practicing, but the players were still improving themselves. So, I mean, I like their chances this year, at least to maybe make it interesting, and against a Georgia Tech team that really can't, I don't think, compete. I'll take the Seminoles to win and cover the 12.5 points. So that's about it. We're going to be off tomorrow, obviously Saturday and Sunday. Enjoy your college football Saturday of what is left of it. No Big Ten, no Pac-12. But especially enjoy your NFL Sunday. Bucks coming out at 4:25 in the prime time slot. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. It's going to be fun. Tom Brady, Drew Brees in the Superdome. A match made in heaven. That'll be great to see. We'll be back on Monday. The Rays are off, but we will be not. We'll be there to talk Bucks. Mainly NFL football and, baseball, college football, obviously, NBA, NHL, all that's going on. Thank you to everyone that tuned into the program. And as always, we'll talk to you on Monday.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.